So that's like 8 hours ago. So how do you feel now? I mean, just kind of...
I didn't want to do that.
Yeah.
July 22nd, 2015 was one of the most heinous crimes imaginable, committed by Robert and Michael Beaver as they brutally attacked their own family. While kids are seen as being innocent, what some of these kids did will blow your mind. Here are some of the most evil kids in the world. Brenda and Spencer. January 29th, 1979. Brenda and Spencer, a young student, sat at her house window overlooking Grover Cleveland Elementary School in San Diego, armed with a Ruger semi-automatic .22 caliber rifle, and opened fire. Spencer's name is forever associated with the tragic event that profoundly impacted the nation and brought attention to the intricate challenges surrounding mental health and firearm access in San Diego. This hideous act was targeted at innocent victims, and she indiscriminately targeted anyone in her line of sight, which led to the tragic loss of 2 lives, leaving 9 others with serious injuries. Some of the victims are Principal Burton Ragg and Custodian Mike Susha, whose untimely death sent the whole community into a state of shock and left many grasping to understand how a person could commit such a senseless act of violence. Now, Spencer harbored such a level of darkness within her that when asked what her motives were for such violence, she replied, "I don't like Mondays." That chilling comment left all observers perplexed as they tried to fathom such an inexplicable act. In the years leading up to the tragic events of January 29, 1979, Brenda began exhibiting signs of emotional and behavioral issues that raised concerns among those around her. As the case started to unfold, it became obvious that Spencer's upbringing had played a significant role in shaping her path. It was also discovered that she had an unruly obsession with firearms, so fascinated by it that she asked for one for Christmas, which her father regrettably granted in 1980. Spencer was charged as an adult with 2 counts of murder for the deaths of Principal Burton Ragg and Custodian Mike Schucker, as well as multiple counts of assault for the injuries inflicted on students and staff. She was given 25 to life in prison with the chance of parole. Spencer's sentence has been upheld, and the event would show the need for ongoing discussions about gun control and mental health awareness.
In 1980, Spencer faced trial for her crimes and was found guilty of multiple charges, including taking lives and multiple counts of assault with a deadly weapon.
Alyssa Bustamante. October 21st, 2008. Alyssa committed a horrifying crime, sending shockwaves through the nation. She brutally assaulted her neighbor, Elizabeth. Born in 1994, Alyssa became notorious for committing a horrifying crime at a very young age. When Alyssa saw the much younger Elizabeth walking home, she seized the opportunity to kill. She grabbed the girl, beat and strangled her, and then would dump her body into one of the graves she had dug up a week before in a nearby wooded area. The true motive behind her actions was later revealed during her trial, where she said that she had a troubled childhood marked by neglect and abuse. She was also very mentally unstable, which led her to suicide attempts numerous times and taking medication for depression. The most disturbing and damning evidence presented was where she had scribbled her thoughts and dark pleasures. The nature of this case had ignited a nationwide debate on the appropriate punishment for juveniles. Alyssa was arrested and charged with first-degree murder in the death of Elizabeth Olten, and she would appear in court on November 17, 2009. Where the judge said that she should be tried as an adult. After numerous delays in the trial, she was finally set to face the murder charges on January 30th, 2012. Alyssa pled guilty to the charge of second-degree murder and armed criminal action. In 2014, she was given life imprisonment with the possibility of parole. Bustamante has continued to be the subject of public interest and scrutiny.
Some argued for leniency, considering her age and the potential for rehabilitation. On the other hand, most believed that the severity of the crime warranted harsher punishment. In 2012, Bustamante pleaded guilty to second-degree murder.
James Fairweather. May 27, 2015. 16-year-old Fairweather was arrested on the Salary Brook Trail and was convicted on 2 counts of murder. This wasn't just any kid. He'd become a full-blooded serial killer. Fairweather, aka the Chester Killer, was born in 1999. He gained notoriety as one of the youngest convicted serial criminals in the UK. Fairweather's name would forever be associated with a dark chapter in Colchester's history. This was a boy engaging in some of the most gruesome crime sprees, claiming the lives of 2 innocent individuals. His first victim was a 33-year-old who was suffering from brain damage, James Atfield. On March 29, 2014, Fairweather attacked James by brutally stabbing him a total of 102 times, which led him to suffering injuries on his head, face, and torso. The following morning, a local man saw James's unconscious body in the middle of a path, surrounded by a pool of his own blood. 2 months would go by, and Fairweather would strike again. This time around, his target was the unsuspecting Nahed Al-Mania. Nahed was a 31-year-old Saudi Arabian student simply walking to the University of Essex. Fairweather ambushed her, slashed, and stabbed her with a sharp knife. These crimes had plunged Colchester into a state of fear and panic, as residents grappled with the horror of what was happening in their city. And on May 27, 2015, a 16-year-old Fairweather was arrested on the Salary Brook Trail. It was around 11 a.m. when a woman called the police to report a suspicious teenager hiding in the bushes as she walked her dog. Fairweather stood trial and was convicted on 2 counts of murder. The court acknowledged the severity and brutality of Fairweather's crimes and gave him 27 years in prison. This man was an absolute menace to society. Fairweather's acts would also be a chilling reminder that evil can emerge unexpectedly, and prevention measures are essential in ensuring the safety and well-being of a community. Arma Sada. Arma Sada earned the title of the youngest serial killer the whole world has ever recorded. In 2006 and 2007, he committed one of the most heinous and despicable killings. Armajit didn't have the craziest childhood. He was born in the village of Mushar in Bihar, India, to parents that were regarded as impoverished, and none had consistently attended school. His parents would struggle making ends meet, with his father being a laborer. However, Armajit was a solitary child, finding himself in activities that included climbing trees and exploring nature in local areas. His life would then shift completely when he was motivated to beat his cousin to death in 2006. Armajit had an aunt who just got a job in the city, and due to the nature of her job, she entrusted him to take care of her son while she was at work. After being tasked with the responsibility of taking care of his cousin, Armajit would commit acts of cruelty frequently, which would eventually lead to his cousin's death. He was said to be amused from watching his cousin's cries, and his actions quickly escalated when he grabbed his cousin's throat and strangled him in an attempt to stop him from breathing. He then buried his cousin beneath the grass and returned home, where he confessed his crimes to his parents without remorse. His mother had been understandably shocked, and his father had physically punished him for his crime. However, the family agreed not to involve the police and told lies to his aunt to cover up the story. Maybe they thought this was just a one-time event. Maybe they thought it was a mistake and just a one-time event. But the next killing would leave the family heartbroken and shocked. In the same year of 2006, Armajit strangled his sister while his parents slept. An uncle had revealed that the family had considered it family matters, so the killings remain unreported. But they couldn't protect his heinous actions after he killed Khushbu in 2007. Khushbu's mother, Chenchan Devi, told police she left her daughter sleeping at a local primary school in 2007. When she returned, Khushbu was missing. Armajit reportedly admitted to strangling Khushbu and hitting her with a brick. He also confessed to killing his cousin and sister the year earlier. He proceeded to lead the villagers to where he had buried the boy. He revealed all this while smiling and was said to have no remorse. Therefore, he was placed in a remand home because under Indian law, a child cannot be sentenced to death or sent to prison, but can be detained at a children's home until they turn 18. A psychiatrist who ran tests on Armajit suggested that he suffered from conduct disorders and also referred to him as a sadist who derives pleasure from inflicting injuries. He was placed in a children's home in the town. Beaver Brothers.
So, was Christopher still alive when you stabbed him?
Yes.
What was he saying and doing?
He was just screaming.
Did you say he was in the bathroom?
Yeah, I was next to the toilet at home.
July 22, 2015, around midnight, a call came into the 911 dispatch of Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, but there was no sound on the other end of the line. Out of caution, the police went to the house, and what they witnessed would leave the community in extreme shock. Robert and Michael Beaver, aged 18 and 16 respectively, orchestrated a brutal attack on 5 members of their family, which included their parents and siblings. 4 members of this family managed to survive. Robert had a strange obsession with murderers, like Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, the Columbine shooters. He often wrote down scenarios he wanted to recreate in a journal and shared his fantasies with his brother Michael. They both shared the same goal, which was to kill 50 to 150. Unfortunately, their family wasn't left out of this number. The Beaver Brothers launched their vicious attack with knives and a hatchet on their parents, David and April Beaver, as well as their siblings. The attack was characterized as extremely brutal, as they tried to claim the lives of their parents and 2 other siblings who were also present during the attack, but managed to survive and sustain severe injuries. The motive behind this act can be considered as only pure evil. Robert had ordered guns and ammo from online, which were to be delivered at his home, and alongside Michael would draw this plan to ensure a cleared house to prevent questioning and suspicion. The 2 brothers planned to quietly slit the throats of their other family members while they slept. They would then clean up the scene and post pictures of their family's bodies to social media to launch their killing spree. First, Michael had called his sister into a room to distract her while Robert attacked her. Then they moved to their next victims, Mom and Dad. At this point, Daniel, their brother, had barricaded himself in the bedroom and made the call to 911, but he was tragically deceived by Michael, who falsely accused Robert of attacking him and urged him to open the door for safety. Daniel trusted his brother's words and allowed Michael entry, unknowingly disconnecting his call with 911. In the process, Robert swiftly followed to complete the disturbing act. The older sister struggled to escape the house to trigger its alarm, but Michael sharply disabled that alarm and would use more violence to force her back in. 2 other siblings sought refuge by locking themselves in the bathroom, but using the same tactics, Michael convinced them to unlock the door. Mike then proceeded to take the life of his brother, while Robert assaulted the other sibling. A knock on the door would halt the brutal attack, and the police busted into the house. Hearing the sirens, the 2 bolted out the back door towards the woods. They dropped to the ground to hide, but police dogs found them within minutes. Following their arrest, the 2 brothers were given 5 counts of first-degree murder and 1 count of aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. Robert pled guilty to all counts and was given life imprisonment without the possibility of parole. On April 16, 2018, Michael, still a minor, was tried as an adult and was convicted on all counts, given 5 life sentences plus 28 years for the assault on his surviving sister. These sentences ensured that they would never again pose a threat to society. Edward Kemper. Ed Kemper is the notorious American serial killer who killed his grandparents at a very young age. He would also go on to kill 8 women in 1 year. The gruesome crimes he committed and the shocking, chilling nature of his acts of violence have earned him a place as one of the most infamous and extensively studied serial killers in history. Born December 18, 1948, in Burbank, California, Edmund Kemper showed troubling behavior from an early age. Ed liked to kill animals, decapitate his sister's dolls, and invent these disturbing games. He had a troubled relationship with his mom and harbored deep resentment toward her, which would all contribute to his early violent fantasies. His criminal activities started in 1964, when he shot his grandmother, Maud Kemper, in the head with his grandfather's .22 caliber rifle. He then proceeded to shoot his grandfather so that he wouldn't find out his wife had been killed. After killing them both, he would call his mom and confess to everything. Kemper was then sent to the criminally insane unit of the Atascadero State Hospital. He later claimed that these acts were driven by his desire to experience the sensation of taking someone's life and to exert control over life and death. In 1969, despite concerns, Kemper was released after spending a couple years in the mental institute. Initially, he tried to live a normal life, but it didn't take long for him to indulge in his murderous fantasies again. His primary targets were women, and he often picked up hitchhiking college students, bringing them to isolated locations, where he would then strangle and dismember them. In 1973, Kemper's violent tendencies escalated further when he killed his mother and her friend. He decapitated his mother and engaged in disturbing acts involving her body before disposing of it. Following this, he voluntarily surrendered to the police, confessing to the series of horrifying crimes. Kemper was arrested and later convicted of 8 counts of first-degree murder. Now, he did attempt suicide twice, even requesting the death penalty, but was ultimately given 7 concurrent life sentences instead. Despite his heinous crimes, he's been a subject of fascination for researchers and psychologists due to his high level of thinking and articulate nature. Throughout his time in prison, Kemper willingly participated in several interviews with reporters and law enforcement officials. He cooperated with psychological and criminal profilers, providing valuable insights into his mind and the motivations behind his crimes. He would go on to meet up with the FBI to discuss these crimes further and why he committed them. The case against Edmund Kemper has contributed to our understanding of serial criminals
and the motivations behind his crimes. His case has significantly contributed to our understanding of serial criminals.
Eric Smith. August 1993. The violent murder of Derek Roby stunned the small community of Savona, New York. However, residents were even more shocked when they found out who the perpetrator was: 13-year-old Eric Smith, born January 22, 1980. Eric gained notoriety for committing a heinous crime at a very young age. Now, that tragic event deeply shocked the community, raising profound questions about the capacity for violence in adolescence and the complexities of the juvenile criminal justice system. Eric Smith found Derek and then lured him into the woods, telling him that he knew a shortcut to the park. Then he would attack, subjecting Derek to a vicious and prolonged assault, strangling him, and then dropping heavy rocks on him. He then fled the scene, leaving poor Derek's body in a forested area just yards from the park. Residents of the small town couldn't understand the brutality of this murder and quickly began speculating about who could have done this terrible thing. Following the discovery of Derek's lifeless body and a massive manhunt, Smith eventually broke down and confessed to his mom about what he had done. He was apprehended shortly after and put on trial. Many questioned whether a child of Smith's age could fully comprehend the gravity of his actions and whether it was the right decision to hold him to the same standards as adult offenders. As the investigation unfolded, it was revealed that Eric Smith had been bullied for years leading up to the murder. He wanted to take out his anger on someone, and Derek Roby was in the wrong place at the wrong time. After a lengthy trial, Smith was found guilty and charged with second-degree murder. His defense attorney argued that he should have been tried as a juvenile. However, the court ruled him as an adult due to the severity of the crime. Smith was given 9 years to life in prison with the possibility of parole after serving 28 years. Smith's case has since sparked debates about the effectiveness of rehabilitation and the appropriate punishment for juvenile offenders. Thomas Michael Lane III. February 27, 2012. At around 7:30 a.m., Thomas Michael Lane III stormed into the cafeteria, where a lot of students hung out before their morning classes, and just opened fire. His violent attack significantly impacted the lives of the families and drew even more attention to the critical issue of school safety. Born on September 9, 1994. Tom Lane III, also known as Lane, grew up to become one of the most revolting criminals in the world. He made the headlines at age 17, shocking the United States of America. Lane's actions resulted in the fatal shooting of 3 students and injuries to 3 others. His victims were identified as Russell King Jr., Demetrius Hewlin, and Danny Parmenter. Following the shooting, Lane was tackled by his 2 teachers, Joseph Ricci and Frank Hall, who managed to hold him down until authorities got there. Now, the motive behind his actions remained debatable, as he never made that clear in court. Lane would develop behavioral problems in his difficult family life, which added to the complexity of the case, as his parents lost custody of him, and thus Lane lived with his grandparents. He displayed no remorse for his actions. He was caught smiling a few times and making smirking remarks and gestures in the courtroom. This kid wore an obscene t-shirt with the word killer written on it, the same word he wore during his shooting rampage. He also addressed the victims' families in a degrading manner.
Lane displayed little remorse for his actions and even smirked and made inappropriate gestures in the courtroom. He wore a t-shirt with an obscene and disrespectful word written on it.
After his arrest, Lane was quickly tried and convicted on 3 counts of aggravated murder, 2 counts of aggravated attempted murder, and 1 count of felonious assault. In March 2013, Lane was found guilty of all the charges against him and was given life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge described his actions as pure evil, emphasizing the need to protect society from someone capable of such violence. This tragic incident sparked discussions about gun control, school safety, and the mental health of young individuals. The lives of the victims' families will never be the same, leaving them with enduring grief and trauma. However, the community did rally together in support of one another and showed commitment to their healing.
The community also rallied together in support of one another, displaying resilience and a commitment to healing.
Zachary Davies. Zach received an automatic life sentence for first-degree murder following a 4-day trial in April for killing his mom. Now, unlike most serial killers, Zach grew up with a very loving family. However, when he turned 9, his dad had passed away. Zachary couldn't handle his father's death, leading to many mental problems, where he was finally admitted for psychiatric treatment at Vanderbilt University Medical Center. This kid was diagnosed with psychosis, a major depressive disorder. The doctors would see him as schizophrenic and place him on medication, making him see a psychiatrist. On August 10, 2012, Zach's mom Melanie took him and his brother Josh to watch a movie at the cinema. After the movie, back at the house, Zach would sneak into his mom's room while she slept and with a sledgehammer slam her over and over again in the head, nearly 20 times until she died. To ensure that his mom didn't survive the attack, Zach had set the house on fire with his younger brother still sleeping and fled. On May 22, 2014, Zachary's case garnered national attention when TV show personality Dr. Phil McGraw aired a jailhouse interview with him. He showed his cruelty with exaggerating head nods and laughing at inappropriate times. Turned out the police caught him walking down the street, and he was immediately arrested. Now, Zach's motives behind the attack remain hidden. However, cops said he confessed that his dead father told him to do it because his mom wasn't being loyal. Zach was found guilty of his crimes and sentenced to life in prison with the possibility of parole after 51 years. Craig Price. Craig Price became one of the youngest serial criminals in American history. His heinous acts garnered notoriety for the chilling crimes he committed in Rhode Island during the late 1980s. Price was born on October 11, 1973, and was known to have shown some violent tendencies as he engaged in animal cruelty and displayed aggressive behavior. However, nobody saw these tendencies until he embarked on his brutal crime spree, sending shockwaves through the community. His first victim was a 28-year-old white female from his neighborhood, whom he peeped on dozens of occasions. While she was jogging near her house, Price would break into her home and wait to brutally attack her, and then leave her lifeless body behind. Price struck again a few months later. His target this time in the neighborhood was Joan Heaton and her two daughters, Jennifer and Melissa. He broke into their homes and brutally assaulted all three, stabbing them and leaving their lifeless bodies. On September 5, 1989, two detectives would find Price and interrogate him about a cut that he had on his hand. Price tried to excuse it as an unrelated injury while he was drunk. So after failing a lie detector test, a search warrant was put in place, and in his house, police found bloody knives and clothing. He was subsequently interrogated about the murders and quickly confessed to the crimes without remorse. Craig's age had sparked debates about the nature of juvenile violence and the appropriate response from the justice system. He was initially convicted as a juvenile and sent to serve time in a youth detention facility until his 21st birthday. However, his violent tendencies persisted while in custody, and he assaulted fellow inmates, even taking the life of one, leading to a reassessment of his case. In February 1996, Craig was involved in a prison fight with another inmate. He would also bite a guard in the process who tried to break up the fight. Price was found guilty of assault and given 1 more year. 2 years later, though, in October 1998, Price again assaulted another officer and repeated the same offense thrice in February 1999, October 2001, and July 2009. This caused him to be sentenced to several more years. On April 4, 2017, Price was accused of stabbing fellow inmate Joshua Davis at the Sewanee Correctional Institution in Live Oak, Florida, with a 5-inch homemade knife. On January 18, 2019, he was given 25 years for that crime.